everybody, Lisa here from Supportive Tarot. Welcome back to my channel. So this week we are, welcome back to Tarot Memoirs. That's why we're here today. So I should mention that also. I am going to be talking with you today about Temperance. So in this weekly series, what I am doing is going through the major arcana from Fool all the way through the majors, and then we're also going to be visiting the minors, but in chunks, like ones together, twos together, etc. And what I like to do is share some excerpts from my favorite tarot books, which we'll get into in just a moment. I also like to share some images of the cards from different decks, and then I share some stories from my own life or some experiences I've had with the archetypes of this card. So with that being said, if you enjoy this series, if you like this kind of content, please make sure you like the video down below. Please comment if you have any feedback or thoughts, because YouTube algorithms love it when people engage with your content, and I like doing this and I want to make sure people get to see it. So definitely like and comment, and if you're not already, please stay, please subscribe if you like my energy or you like the kind of content that I share, because I like building a little community, so it's fun. Anyways, that being said, I'm going to stop geeking out on random tarot, or not tarot, random YouTube things I'm supposed to say, and we're just going to get into this, the good stuff. So I use Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, Benabel Wen's Holistic Tarot, and Melissa Sanova's Kitchen Table Tarot in this series. I'm going to get right into Temperance. And I have to say, this is kind of a welcome respite. Respite? Does anybody know how you say that? Please tell me, because I'm not sure whether it's respite or respite, and it's gonna bug me now. Anyways, Temperance is kind of a nice break. There we go. That's a better word. I can say that one. Because we've just been looking at death, and upcoming in the next couple of weeks, we have the Devil and the Tower, which are two big, oof, kind of energies, right? So I am excited. I just kicked my camera, but I'm excited to get into Temperance because she's kind of like a really nice little break, like a little breather, which is great. Temperance is a really comforting energy to come up in a spread. I feel like she's very calming to look at. This is actually a dude, so he's very calming to look at. I don't know why, but Temperance energy to me feels very feminine, but this is, I think this is totally like a male angel. Maybe it's a female. Any opinions? I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm just randomly curious. All right, moving on. The term, I'm going to just read some little highlighted bits, as I usually do, from Rachel Pollack's book, and then I'll read some highlighted bits from the other books, and we'll just chat about that. So the term temperance means moderation. For most people, this means self-control. I know all about self-control. No, I don't. Anyways, the tarot temperance, however, does not go to extremes, simply because extremes are not necessary. Not an artificial inhibition according to a moral code, but exactly the opposite, a true and proper response to all situations as they arise. I can get behind that. The word temperance derives from the Latin temperare, which means to mix or to combine properly. Excuse me. The person who has, the person who has released his or her inner self is characterized not only by moderation, but by an ability to combine the different sides of life. Many people can only deal with life by parceling it off into sections. Peggy is going to watch this later, and she's going to be like, I told you so. I'm such a compartmentalizer. It's a coping mechanism. So yeah. Anyways, by parceling it off into sections, they create one personality for business and another for their private lives. Both are false. They consider certain moments and situations to be serious and others to be fun, and are careful never to laugh or smile at serious subjects. All these separations derive from the inability to take life as it comes, moment by moment. Temperance combines the elements of life. In reality, it combines the elements of the personality so that the person and the outer world flow together naturally. When we look at the Waite-Smith, that's this one, the Waite-Smith image, we see first of all the water being poured from one cup to another. So where can I hold this so you can see it? Yeah, there we go. So the elements of life are flowing together. Notice that the lower cup is not directly below the upper, so that the picture shows a physical impossibility. To other people, the temperate person's ability to handle all life's problems with joy appear magical. I think that's actually really cool and a neat perspective. The road especially, there's a road in the background, which I never noticed before in this card, but it leads to like a valley between mountains. I have to hold it on the left so I can see too. There we go. So the road especially signifies return. We have gone down into the self, and now we are making our way back to involvement with the outer world enriched. I liked that too. Psychologically, the angel indicates the energy of life which emerges after the ego's death. The triangle now shows that this energy works within the square of ordinary activities. And they're talking about the, oh God, I can't figure out where to hold things. There we go, the triangle inside the square on the angel's chest. Okay. We do not need to perform miracles to sense our connection with the immortal universe. We need only be ourselves. I like that too. The divinatory meanings, like the card's ideas, begin with moderation, balance on all things, and taking the middle path. The card means right action, doing the correct thing in whatever situation arises. Very often this means doing nothing. The intemperate person always needs to be doing something, but very often a situation requires a person to simply wait. See previous Hanged Man video about waiting. The card will sometimes appear as an antidote to cards of recklessness and hysteria. Like the Fool reversed, Temperance upside down indicates a wildness, going to extremes. In Temperance, this is because the person lacks the inner awareness to know what is appropriate to a situation. So that is Rachel Smith's perspective on Temperance, and there's quite a bit more in there, but that is what she had to say about that I highlighted that stood out to me. Temperance is another card kind of like the Hanged Man, which sometimes I've struggled with. I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's balance and it's tempering things, but it's been tricky for me in the past. So that actually excerpt in Rachel Pollack's book did help. Let's get into Benabel Wen's Holistic Tarot and see what she had to say. So I have to put this one on my lap, so I'm going to be looking down. She says, some call Temperance the healing card, and I like that. It denotes greater external or universal forces entering into our individual lives to right what is wrong, restore what was lost, cool what was too hot, heat up what was too cold, and temper our lives for balanced, harmonious health. I really like that. This card is about internal balance. Compare key 11. Justice indicates external balance. Temperance is the fusion of two contrasting elements and bringing them into harmony within the mind of the spirit. The Temperance card could also indicate that tempering is an important factor in dealing with the seeker's current situation. The seeker needs to reconcile two contrasting elements and bring them to harmony. And this is interesting because we often see in the Temperance cards a lot of like fire and water symbology, like mixing fire and water, opposing energies. And in the traditional card, the angel usually has one foot on land and one on water. What else did I snag here? Oh, here we go. Reversed. Temperance is an important factor in the current problem, but the seeker is not applying it. The card in reverse is a warning to do a better job tempering and bringing harmony to the contrasting elements currently in the seeker's life. So that is what stood out to me from Holistic Tarot on Temperance. And then finally I have Melissa Sanova's, I almost said Everyday Witch, that's not right. Melissa Sanova's Kitchen Table Tarot. And the action phrase she's got here for Temperance is, appropriately, I am balancing. And what I've highlighted here, let me pull up a card again. Balance, balance, balance. I love how straightforward she is. It's great. This card can also represent alchemy, and I love that word, alchemy. A little of this and a little of that is okay. You can blend almost anything, and nothing really has to be in extremes. Opposites can be blended. You just have to have patience and the right equipment. Man and woman, fire and water, hell, even oil and water can be mixed. You just have to know the secret. And I loved that. There is a balance. We just have to stop and look around to find it. Temperance rests between death and the devil in the tarot. Change, peace, chaos. Loved that. And then she says, inverted, it's about excess. I mean, she goes on, but I mean, that's basically the point. Inverted, when we see the shadow side of Temperance, we see excess. We see out of balance, obviously, things that are not in harmony. So, yes, I appreciated that take as well. So, let's show cards. I pulled out, oh, I kicked my camera again, and I keep crossing and uncrossing my legs. So when you see me fidget, that's what I'm doing. Sorry for the camera movement. I'm sorry. I will try not to move it again. So that was our Rider-Waite Smith image of Temperance. We have the angel with the red wings, and there was some Where did I hear something about the red wings specifically speaking to the fact that this angel even has a balance of both dark and light in them? Somewhere I heard that reference and it's always stuck with me. So I do always notice the red wings rather than white fluffy wings. We see this idea of even within the angel themselves, this dark light balance, which I appreciate. So other cards to show. We have the Marseille. This is my basic Marseille deck, which is a Conver version, I believe. Temperance. And I will never look at these cups being sort of this way with the water flowing back the same again, because there's a magic element to people who do manage to find this sweet spot between extremes in their life. Very cool. This one doesn't have red wings, so I've noticed that now. Interesting. Also interesting, the Marseille, instead of XIV for the Roman numerals, it's XIII. So they've got their own system, or at least this deck does. Does anybody know, is that common across Marseille decks to go XIII instead of XIV? Is that like an older version of Roman numerals? Can you tell me if you know? I don't know. Anyways, that's the Marseille version. I love the Marielle, but I love most of the images in the Marielle, with this tiger almost like playing with and tempering the ocean itself. Like, it's just a very powerful card, and I think tigers are a very fiery animal, so this totally reads beautifully for me, this image. Love that from the Marielle. In the Gil Tarot, and I'm kind of looking before I put it up, sorry. These are newer decks to my collection, so a lot of them I haven't really taken the time to gaze at like this, but I love this like swirling magical stuff that's happening for this angel and this figure. It's like this angel is simultaneously like controlling the fire and the waves at the feet, at her feet, and then also controlling the storm and the blue sky and putting those in perfect balance above. So there's an as above, so below element here that I'm really picking up on and enjoying. This whole rainbow between the storm clouds above, and these pyramid-like mountains behind her. So we have all the symbology. It's really powerful, actually, this image. I like it. I like it. This is simple and beautiful to me. Temperance from the Naked Heart. I see that this figure is made up of fire on this side and water in the other, and we see the alchemical symbols for fire and water in the scales and show that they are in perfect balance with each other. And there's even, I believe, a little, like a stem, something green running through the very center of this card as well. I don't know if you can see that. Like a stem, like growth, like something is growing out of that balance. Cool, cool image. I love the little fairy doing all of the rainbow tempering in this little mini fairy tarot. It's a very sweet image. I enjoy looking at this tarot on the camera because it's so little. And sometimes my eyes have a hard time, but I can put it on the screen and be like, oh, look at all those details. I like it. I don't know why I got like a mini tarot deck when my eyes are not great close up anymore. Not smart, Lisa, not smart. Everyday Witch. Love this one, but of course I am also a yoga teacher, so this one just like, I like it. She's doing tree pose. The interesting thing about tree pose, and I'm going to geek out on you for a second about yoga. What's interesting about tree pose is that, and for starters, not everybody puts their foot this high. I just have to have a moment where I talk about being a body positive yoga teacher and how in most bodies this foot is actually on the calf, and it's just as powerful of a pose because not everybody's bodies can do this shape. But anyway, what's interesting about this pose is that in order to do this pose well, you need equal force, believe it or not, between the standing leg and the leg that's bent and the foot that's pressing against. So you need to press the foot into your calf or thigh and press your thigh into your calf or foot at the same time with equal amounts of pressure in order to really hold this shape in a balanced, strong way. And what most people do is they kind of rest their foot, and then this pose is very tippy. But if you really draw power up from the earth and draw those two forces together in equal, you will get a really powerful pose. So this card makes perfect sense for me with the idea of temperance, with the idea of opposing forces and bringing them together to create harmony, to create balance. Sorry, total yoga teacher geek moment there, but love this card. I love this card. And there's another card, the Hierophant, also shows somebody like looking like she's maybe teaching a yoga class or meditation class. So this deck and me, we're good buddies for that reason, if for no other. There's others, but the Bonefire Tarot. I love, again, we see flames dancing with water. And in this case, it looks like there is fire, or like almost like liquid molten lava from the sun almost being poured into a cup of ice. So we get heat and ice mixing, which is kind of a cool take. It's another way to look at sort of fire and water. And we see again here this symbol, this alchemical symbol there, like what we see on the angel's shirt. A little bit different, but similar. And there's also some tattoos. Yeah, she's got some like iris tattoos. There's also in the back, there's a signpost that says new, old. New one way, old the other, as if those are also in harmony or in balance in this card. Cool perspective, I like it. This is a little bit simple to me, but I do still really enjoy the image. This is Temperance from the Anna K Tarot, and I do feel like there's this idea of, she's obviously balancing these two water bowls or pitchers or whatnot on each shoulder. And so it takes some concentration and some moderation, I guess. So she's not carrying too much water in either one so that they tip. She's being mindful about it that way. But it's a little bit simpler and everyday look at Temperance. Next we have Temperance from the Arcana Black. This is a playing card deck with the addition of Major Arcana. So it's a pip deck through the minors, but I love the artwork in the majors. It's just beautiful. She's got one cup directly below, so there's a little less of that magic element. But I mean, then again, she has wings, so there's still magic, right? Yeah. I like that one. Love, 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 love the Temperance card from my mom's tarot. I love the idea that she is like, the water is flowing back and forth between the two containers, but the containers themselves are different. And I love that there's like this happy little fishy that's just like riding the wave, clearly back and forth between the two glasses, just completely content with that balance that she's holding. And obviously if she were to lose focus or like lose that sense of balance and harmony between, the little fishy would fall, right? So we don't want the fish to fall. So we got to maintain that moderation and that balance. And even this little angel character, this little monster character, has that little triangle shape on the chest. So pretty cool. And we go from the silliness of the Mons Tarot to the stunning gorgeousness of Temperance in the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. Beautiful. 1 foot on land, 1 toe just dipping into the river. Red wings. Beautiful gown. Love her. And finally we have Temperance. I'm going to look at this one myself for a moment. Temperance from the Moonchild Tarot. I was trying to see, like, is there, it's almost like she's got a curtain of water in front of her. I'm going to bring it really close because it helps me see too. Interesting. I like it. Here are the cups themselves. She's got 1 red cup and 1 blue cup. So you get this idea of, again, balancing and harmonizing. And that is the last card to show. So those are some great images. Temperance, again, is one of those cards that in the past for sure has felt very ambiguous, I guess, to a certain degree, because I do see balance in justice and balance in some of the other cards. So let's get into some memoirs bits here. First of all, so every day in my life, I look at temperance as those moments when I temper my own behavior. Those moments when I'm able to see the big picture and look at what needs to be done from the greater perspective we get from pulling back from a situation and looking at the overall. Rather than maybe being so impulsive, it's that opportunity to think where is more force needed or less force needed, etc. in a particular situation. Sometimes we just need to be soft. Sometimes we actually need to temper softness with more of a firm approach. And so for me, that's where Temperance shows up sort of day to day in the light side. In the shadow side, it's when I really dive into excess or into what I like to call tunnel vision. When I get really excited about something, hello YouTube, sometimes I go a little crazy and I don't balance things out or balance that out with the rest of my life and something gets neglected. So for me, Temperance energy really talks about like sort of balancing those excesses and bringing things into a more harmonious place. from a, let's see, sorry, Peggy just messaged me. I'm like, she's out there. She's messaging me a reminder for tomorrow, so I was totally distracted. But I've got my notes on my phone, so there you go. But speaking of Peggy, super relevant. Let's talk about fire and water for a second and the idea of balancing opposing forces. So Peggy is very much a classic fire sign. Like, she is a fiery personality, and I am very much a classic watery sign. Like, I'm like the touchy-feely. So we legitimately are like fire and water together. And in fact, that was a huge part of our connection from the very beginning, to the point where our wedding was almost entirely themed after the yin-yang symbol, the Taoist symbol of dark and light and yin and yang, active and passive. We had literally had a ceremony built into, I wrote it because fun, but we had a rose exchange ceremony, and what we had, I'm just going to geek out on this for a second, and I'm sorry if this is boring, but I really love telling people about it. If you were to look from the top down, we had a vase of black and white roses. They were made out of feathers, so they were like artificial feathers, but they were really soft. Anyways, fake roses, black and white, literally were arranged in a vase, so if you looked at it from the top down, it looked like a yin-yang symbol, but without the dots. As part of our ceremony, we each pulled a rose out of our section. So I pulled it out of the black section for the yang, or for the yin force rather. Peggy pulled a rose out of the white section, and we exchanged, and those roses were put into the vase to create the dots in the yin-yang symbol. We each have a unique fire and water yin-yang symbol on our bodies that was tattooed shortly after we got married, or before we got married. And we got those tattoos done in Vancouver. So Peggy has one on her shoulder, and I have one on my left calf, like the side of my left calf. They're different, but they both show fire and water and a yin-yang, and that is to honor the connection that we have with each other, not just from a relationship like let's get a matching tattoo, but I mean that was obviously a part of it because I'm a big dork, but also more importantly, in a way, it was the way that the balance that we gave each other, the ways that we tempered each other, truly tempered each other, how that changed us permanently. And so I'll speak about it from my perspective. I, having been very watery and very, I was always the type of person to surrender, to be passive, to give up my power. And Peggy, through our friendship and then later our marriage, really was a huge instrumental force in my life, who demonstrated the importance and the necessity of standing up for myself, of injecting fire into my life where I needed it. Because of her, I started to learn how to establish healthy boundaries and how to experience a sense of self-worth. And there's I could go on and on and on this topic, but she was really instrumental. Her fiery personality, her take no shit energy, her you don't have to put up with crappy people in your life. Like, there was so much about her, so much of her fieriness taught me so much about how to temper my own wateriness, how to create space for there to be this alchemy between the two so that I could have just enough fire to temper my water. And on the reverse, I will say that, you know, she's got all that fire, and she relies on me sometimes to be the touchy-feely water to temper her fire. And it's just an instrumental part of how we engage with each other and how we engage as a unified team with the rest of the world. It's a huge part of our dynamic as a couple and as sort of a unit. And, you know, we joke that Peggy helped to install my backbone, but it's kind of true. Like, she was a huge part of that journey. And I got to explore ideas and experiences with her that I would not have felt safe to do with anybody else, and really helped me get out of my old comfort zone and into a new one. So Temperance, our marriage, it's just the perfect example to me of where this energy shows up. And in that vein, the yin-yang symbol, the Taoist yin-yang symbol, I cannot talk because I got excited talking about my marriage, but the Taoist yin-yang symbol is definitely worth reading about if you are intrigued about these ideas of temperance and of alchemy and of balancing sort of opposing forces. Because one of the key principles is that you cannot have dark without the light, and you cannot have light without the dark. And so that's the whole principle of that symbol, or part of it. I don't want to minimize it in any way, but that's the part that really had meaning for me in my life. So, whew, with that said, we're going to wrap up this particular video, but before I go, make sure that you're engaging with this content if you want to, in whatever way that you want to. If you want to comment down below with some temperance-y experiences you've had, that'd be awesome. If you're not comfortable because YouTube is super public, that's cool too. We have a supportive tarot Facebook group. You're more than welcome to post your thoughts in there. I always welcome discussion over there on any topic related to this series, tarot, witchy stuff, like anything you want, it's all good. Within reason, obviously. I shouldn't just say anything you want. That's just like, let's temper that statement a little bit, shall we? See what I did there? You see? You see? I used it in a sentence. I feel so proud of myself. Okay, anyways. So, let's get into some journal prompts because I know some of you are enjoying these and are using these. I like these. These journal prompts come from the book, Journaling the Tarot, A Little Book of Big Questions by Andy Matzner. And I usually pick 5, but he's got way more in every single card, and these are so good. So good. I don't even know what I just tried to say. So good. So here are 5 for this week. Number 1, how are you seeing the bigger picture? Number 2, how will the integration of 2 opposites bring you closer to wholeness? Number 3, who or what must you release from your life in order to gain clarity? What number are we on? 4, what brings you a sense of inner peace? And 5, who supports you and how? So that is it for this week's Tarot Memoirs. Join me next week while we look at the devil. So that should be fun. All right, y'all. Talk to y'all later. Bye.